Yeah, what's good, YouTube? Um, what's good, y'all? Who do you think will win between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence? I'm a casual boxing fan, and just like everybody who's a casual boxing fan, we want to see the fight between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. For the 147-pound division. And me personally, I believe Terence Crawford would beat Errol Spence. I believe Terence Crawford. I believe Terence Crawford would beat Errol Spence. And I think Terence Spence. Let me say that again. I think Terence Crawford punching power is too much for Errol Spence. Terence Crawford, he doesn't go. He never goes a full 12 rounds. He always either knocks out his opponent or gives his opponent an early round stoppage. Terence Crawford never goes a full 12 rounds. I mean, he always knocks out his opponent. You know, his punching power is too much. He's very strong. He's a very hard hitter, and Terence Crawford is probably the most offensively gifted boxer out today. I mean, in my opinion, he's the pound for pound. You know, he's knocking dudes out clean cold. You know, his last fight was with Kell Brook. Kell Brook didn't last a full 5 rounds with Terence Crawford. I mean, Terence Crawford had Kell Brook out of there within like the first 4 rounds. I think I think Terence Crawford. I think it was like a fourth round TKO he had against Kell Brook or whatever. Terence Crawford is a hard hitter. I actually think Terence Crawford should actually move up to like 155 or 160. He fights for the 147-pound division, Terence Crawford, but he has the power of a 155 to 160 pounder. So, man, this dude has extreme strength, especially for the 147-pound division. And Errol Spence, on the other hand, he doesn't have the same punching power as Terence Crawford. You know, Errol Spence isn't knocking dudes out like Terence Crawford. Errol Spence, he usually wins by decision. He'll go a full 12 rounds and usually wins by decision. He's not knocking dudes out like Terence Crawford. But Errol Spence, he is a very defensive fighter, very skilled, very tactical. He has a high ring IQ. And his last fight was with Danny Garcia. He won that fight by decision. It was a full 12-round fight he had against Danny Garcia. And if if Terence Crawford if Terence Crawford um If Terence Crawford fought against Danny Garcia, he wouldn't have went to a 12 round decision. Terence Crawford would KO Danny Garcia within the first 5 rounds of the fight. You know, Danny Garcia will never hang in a full 12 rounds with a Terence Crawford. But Danny Garcia hung in the full 12 rounds against Errol Spence. You know, Terence Spence would have knocked the fuck out of Danny Garcia. Terence Crawford would have knocked out Danny Garcia clean cold. You know, it is what it is. You know, I don't think Errol Spence can handle the punching power of Terence Crawford, especially after Errol Spence's car accident. This is not the same Errol Spence as before. Errol Spence got in a huge car accident, and he's now just coming back to boxing. You know, will he's still in good enough condition to box, but we still have to ask ourselves, is this the same Errol Spence before the car accident? Can anyone 100% physically recover from a harsh car accident like Errol Spence was in? And I'm not too sure. Now, after the car accident, can Errol Spence's body handle a hard hitter, a hard body puncher like Terence Crawford? I don't think so. I don't think Errol Spence, especially after this car accident, I don't think his body can handle a hard puncher like Terence Crawford. I think Terence Crawford would stop Errol Spence like in like the 10th round or something. I think Terence Crawford will have a late round stoppage against Errol Spence. And Errol Spence, before his last fight, before the car accident, Errol Spence fought against Shawn Porter, and it was a good fight. Shawn Porter went head to head with Errol Spence. He got some good punches in against Errol Spence. And, Errol Spence didn't have it too easy against Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter hit Errol Spence with some punches that had Errol Spence backing up. Shawn Porter had Errol Spence backing up a few times. Shawn Porter hit Errol Spence with a few good punches that made Errol Spence back up on the ropes, and Errol Spence with legs got a little wobbly on a few occasions against Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter proved to everyone that Errol Spence is beatable. Errol Spence is beatable, and Shawn Porter kind of proved that. And if Shawn Porter can land some good punches and go neck to neck, go head to head with Errol Spence, then Terence Crawford could definitely do the same. Terence Crawford is the most offensively gifted boxer in the world. If Terence Crawford, if Shawn Porter can, if Shawn Porter can give Errol Spence some trouble, then Terence Crawford definitely can do the same. Terence Crawford is even stronger than Shawn Porter. You know, Terence Crawford hits harder than Sean Porter. You know, Terence Crawford is a way more talented boxer than Sean Porter. Terence Crawford is more offensively gifted than Sean Porter. So if Sean Porter can give Errol Spence the business, then Terence Crawford could definitely do the same. Sean Porter went neck to neck with Errol Spence before the car accident. When Errol Spence was a little stronger. So you can't tell me after the car accident, Terence Crawford can't knock out Errol Spence. Is Sean Porter a weaker boxer than Terence Crawford? Went neck to neck, went head to head, and almost beat Errol Spence before the car accident. Then a boxer like Terence Crawford can beat Errol Spence after the accident. If Sean Porter did it before the accident, then Terence Crawford can definitely knock out Errol Spence after the accident. You guys get my logic. I don't think Errol Spence can hang with Terence Crawford's power, and this is exactly what's going to happen. If Terence Crawford ends up fighting Errol Spence at 147, okay, I think Errol Spence will get some punches in, of course. But Errol Spence, he doesn't have extreme punching power. You know, Terence Crawford has been in the ring with guys who hit way harder than hit Errol Spence. You know, Kell Brook probably hits harder than Errol Spence, and Kell Brook just fought Terence Crawford his last fight, and he Kell Brook was hitting Terence Kell Brook was hitting Terence Crawford in the face with some decent hard punches, but Terence Crawford was fucking eating those punches and just he was eating Kell Brooks's punches, and he was just going forward, eating Kell Brooks's punches and punching Kell Brooks. So Terence Crawford, he has a good chin. He knows how to take a punch, and Errol Spence definitely doesn't hit hard enough to make Terence Crawford back up. Errol Spence, he'll get some punches on Terence Crawford, but Terence Crawford will probably just eat those punches, and he'll probably just go forward and and do his thing against Errol Spence. Errol Spence would hit Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is Terence Crawford is hittable. Terence Crawford, he doesn't have the greatest defense in the world. So Errol Spence would definitely hit Terence Crawford with some hits. But Terence Crawford, he has a still chin, and he'll probably just eat all the punches that Errol Spence gives him, and he'll just keep coming forward and forward and forward against Errol Spence. I think Terence Crawford would come forward on Errol Spence. He'll Terence Crawford would eat Errol Spence punches, and Terence Crawford would just keep coming forward, and he'll start hitting Errol Spence with some good body shots and some head shots, and Errol Spence is not going to be able to handle that power of Terence Crawford, and it's going to be like an eighth round, 10th round stoppage, I believe, and Terence Crawford is going to win. Errol Spence has impeccable defense, great defense, but Errol Spence had great defense against Sean Porter. Sean Porter was still landing some punches. You know, Terence Crawford is the most offensively gifted boxer in the world, so he's going to land some good punches on Errol Spence. You know, And I believe he's going to land enough punches on Errol Spence that Errol Spence is going to throw those power punches. And I don't believe Errol Spence is going to be able to handle that strength of Terence Crawford. I just don't. You know, Errol Spence. Errol Spence has never been in the ring with someone who has the power punch of Terence Crawford. He has never. I don't think Errol Spence's body is used to the power punching of Terence Crawford. I don't think so, especially after the accident. This is not the normal Errol Spence. This is Errol Spence post accident. You know, Errol Spence had a horrible accident, and no one body 100% recovers from that type of accident. No one body 100% comes back after the type of accident that Errol Spence had. So this is not the same Errol Spence as before the accident. And I don't believe a post-accident Errol Spence can handle the punching power of a Terence Crawford. I don't think so, man. Terence Crawford has knocked out dudes who are bigger than Errol Spence. You know, Kell Brook is bigger than Errol Spence. You know, the Eastern European guy who Terence Crawford knocked out, he's bigger than Errol Spence. Like, Terence Crawford is no joke with his punching ability, man. He is no joke with his punching ability, man. And will Errol Spence be able to handle this punching ability? I don't think so. The only chance that Errol Spence has against Terence Crawford is if the fight goes to decision. You know, Errol Spence can only beat Terence Crawford if the fight goes to decision. But I don't think the fight's going to go to the decision though. Like, because Terence Crawford has punching power out of this world, man. Man, I don't think Errol Spence has ever fought a fighter with the punching power as a Terence Crawford, man. I don't think he can handle it. I don't think his body can handle it, especially after the car accident. You know, if Terence Crawford and Errol Spence would have fought before Errol Spence's car accident, then it could have been a different story. You know, but I saw the fight that Errol Spence had against Danny Garcia. You know, Errol Spence kind of, and this is after the accident. You know, Errol Spence kind of looks like a shell of himself a little bit. You know, against Danny Garcia, Errol Spence kind of looked like a shell of himself. I mean, Errol Spence wasn't throwing too many punches against Danny Garcia. He kind of looked scared to throw too many punches. He didn't look like his punches had too much strength to them. You know, Errol Spence didn't look like he was throwing hard punches against Danny Garcia. He looked like he was kind of scared to engage against Garcia. You know, he just doesn't look like the same full, complete fighter that he was before the car accident. You know, I mean, Errol Spence, he didn't look horrible against Danny Garcia. I'm not saying he looked horrible against Danny Garcia, but he kind of looked a little weak against Garcia a little bit, you know. And I'm wondering, like, can his body handle the punching power Like Errol Spence got in a bad car accident. You know, can his post car accident body handle the punching power of a Terence Crawford? Man, and I don't think so. You know, and even if Terence Crawford and Errol Spence do fight, and let's say Errol Spence and Terence Crawford fight, and their fight goes to a full 12-round decision. I still don't know if Errol Spence will win in that situation because Terence Crawford is a strong puncher. You know, once Terence Crawford, once Errol Spence feels that punching power of Terence Crawford, he's going to be afraid to throw punches and engage. So if you're not engaging, not throwing punches because you're scared of Terence Crawford's punching power and you're not engaging, not throwing punches, then how are you going to win a decision against Terence Crawford if you're too scared to throw and feel that punching power? So, man, most likely, I believe Terence Crawford would beat Errol Spence. I don't think there's anyone in the 147 division that can hang with Terence Crawford's punching power. Terence Crawford would knock out Pacquiao. Terence Crawford would knock out Sean Porter. Terence Crawford would knock out Keith Thurman. Terence Crawford would definitely knock out Danny Garcia. There's no one in the 147 division that can hang with Terence Crawford in that ring right now. Terence Crawford is just too offensively gifted. That's why I say Terence Crawford is the pound for pound. Pacquiao isn't the pound for pound. Canelo is not the pound for pound. Terence Crawford is the pound for pound. Terence Crawford is straight up knocking dudes out. He's not going a full 12th round with anybody. He's never seen an offensively gifted fighter like this in a while. But yeah, and Terence Crawford, he doesn't get the props that he deserves. Dude is extremely gifted. We haven't seen a boxer like this in a minute. Dude is just straight knocking dudes out. No one's going to full 12 round against him. It's crazy, right?